Israel is not at war with the Iranian people, but we are in war with the regime. If this corrupt, violent, and radical regime falls, that would be a huge blessing for everyone.
Iran is presently the hero of the vast majority of people in the world.
Oh, rubbish.
And it's
Absolute
the fact
rubbish.
that Iran is giving Israel a bloody good hiding every single night.
It's not, though, is it?
Described it all.
It's not, though, is
Dude,
it?
this is pure nonsense, Piers. Why
are you so deluded, George?
Why are they begging Donald
Why is your
Trump to join in?
pathological hatred of all things Israel made you so deluded?
My dad is bigger than your dad.
Not my dad, just the number of people that watch my show massively dwarfs yours.
My dick is bigger than your dick. Are you really down to that? But I'll tell you what, Piers, you're a busted flush.
Israel's allies have been rapidly losing patience with Prime Minister Netanyahu's government over the increasingly aimless brutality, it seems, of the war in Gaza. The strikes on Iran have drawn a markedly different response. There were calls for de-escalation, but unanimous agreement that Iran cannot be allowed to develop nukes and that Israel has a right to defend itself from that. The question is, when does defence become attack if it hasn't already? And will the Iran crisis relieve international pressure over the killing of starvation in Gaza, which is suddenly far from the headlines? Well, George Galloway will be joining me with his views shortly. We'll begin with Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister of Israel, who many consider a front-runner to potentially be Israel's next Prime Minister. Welcome back to Uncensored, Mr. Bennett. I appreciate you joining me. First of all, to those who say that there is no hard evidence that Iran is imminently about to produce a nuclear bomb, and therefore this is an unjustified attack by Israel, what do you say to them?
Well, the facts are to the contrary. There's highly enriched uranium in an amount that's enough for 10 nuclear warheads. This is more than Iran ever had, and it's at 60% enrichment grade. There's no civilian use for uranium at 60% enrichment. All right? You don't need it for isotopes. You don't need it for medical needs, only for military use. So that in itself is a proof. Secondly, we have intel that on the device building, Iran has made strides. And third, we saw over the past month, the Khamenei himself said that it's time to remove the tumor called Israel. That's a direct statement that he wants to annihilate Israel. Now, when you're talking about preventing nuclear military Iran, you can't wait for the bomb to be on its way to here. You have to do it when you can. Even now, it's after the 12th hour. This should have been done a decade ago. Now it's much, much tougher because it's spread all around, but we're way, way after the latest deadline.
Do you believe that the way this has played out in the first few days, this war, that Israel may have dealt a lethal blow to the Iranian regime in the sense of taking out so many military commanders, nuclear scientists, nuclear sites, causing so much damage to any nuclear program that they may have been pursuing, that actually, if you look at the response from Iran so far, it suggests that maybe this was, from a military perspective, a perfectly timed attack that may well potentially precipitate the removal of the regime.
Look, that would be a wonderful outcome for the Middle East and for the world, because this regime is horrible. And by the way, I want to be very clear, Israel is not at war with the Iranian people. We respect the Iranian people. We should be living in peace with them. We have a very deep history that goes back thousands of years with the Persians. But we are in war with the regime, and especially trying to stop it from acquiring nuclear weapons. If this corrupt, disconnected, old, violent and radical regime falls, that would be a huge blessing for everyone. That is not the explicit goal of this operation, but obviously we'd be thrilled if that would happen.
Where does America sit in this? Because it looks to me that President Trump is keen for it not to be publicly seen that America is involved at all, but that tacitly conversations must have happened with Prime Minister Netanyahu, where he at least has not put up much of a fight to stop Israel doing this.
Well, you know, America and Israel were different countries. We view things similarly, but not precisely the same way. And from our perspective, Iran is an existential threat. From America's perspective, it's a strategic threat. That's one notch less, and that's legit. Israel is not asking America to do anything. We're doing this. We do. If one of the problems is that one of the facilities, the Fordo enrichment facility, is buried deep underground in a mountain, and Israel doesn't have all the tools right now to take care of that. So as the campaign progresses, maybe new options will open up. And at the end of the day, it's America and President Trump's decision what he wants to do. I think that from a global standpoint, when Iran is so feeble, so vulnerable, the regime so weakened, with such a limited ability to retaliate, the risk-reward of taking out Fordo is you know, a big one. It's a positive because it's not only in our interest. I think America doesn't want to wake up with an Iranian nuclear regime like what happened in North Korea. During the North Korea crisis back a few decades ago, there wasn't an Israel who was willing to do the hard work. Here we are willing to do the hard work. We're paying the price. It's our citizens who are taking hits. It's our pilots who are flying over Iran. If the world wants a safer place, yeah, they should back us.
At the same time, of course, there's the ongoing war with Hamas in Gaza. I've been increasingly critical of the Israeli government's strategy in Gaza for a number of reasons, but primarily triggered by what came out of the mouth of Mr. Smotrich, who appeared to be brazenly discussing a form of genocide, ethnic cleansing, a clear, unambiguous statement of intent to clear all the Palestinians out of Gaza. When you heard what he said, what was your reaction?
Well, Piers, I would urge you, first of all, I get you. I mean, you're looking at things from your perspective from the most balanced way that you can. I would urge you to look at Israel's actions and not to look at foolish words of politicians. And it's a bit peculiar, but Israel's a democracy. Too many of our politicians look domestically to gain some local benefit, and sometimes they say really stupid things. But that is not the government policy. Israel's policy is not what Smotrich said. And the way we are operating is one which is consistent with international law.
If that is the case, and I've been saying this to a lot of my pro-Israeli guests recently, if that is the case, if everything you're doing is lawful, why does the Israeli government persist in banning international journalists from going anywhere near Gaza?
Well, in Gaza, there's one of two options for a journalist. You can't just roam around because you'll get killed or step on a booby trap. You're either embedded within the IDF or embedded within Hamas. When you're embedded within Hamas, as we just saw a couple of weeks ago, the Washington Post came out with a segment saying that if you don't report what the Hamas wants you to report, you'll be threatened. So we're not going to allow journalists to just roam around a battlefield that Israeli soldiers are getting killed by the day. So we're not going to do that. But you can enter with IDF. You know, we do our best, but we can't let people roam around. And by the way, that's pretty much, to my knowledge, consistent with most situations.
No, that's not right. That's not right. I've seen some Israelis say that's not right. I know many war correspondents, and they've never known things to be as restricted as they are currently with Gaza. They can't believe that literally no international journalists have been allowed to enter freely. And frankly, when it comes to the risk assessment, that's not the business of Israel to make that decision for them. It's down to the individual journalists and their networks or their media bosses, as it always is in these situations. And I think the problem for Israel is that it's allowed you, the Israeli government and the IDF, to throw a cast of doubt and suspicion over almost anything that happens that reflects badly on Israel or the IDF because it can't be verified either way. So almost everything that happens that's bad, all we see is people coming on the airways going, we don't think that happened. We're going to launch our own inquiry, buying time, moving on. Whereas if there was a willingness to allow international journalists in, they could report and verify freely and do their jobs. And that would remove a lot of the cloud of suspicion that actually Israel is doing stuff in Gaza which it doesn't want the world to see. Many of us carry around bulky, worn-out wallets that are uncomfortable and full of junk. The big question is why. Ridge wallets can hold 12 cards plus cash with zero bulk. They're made from premium materials like aluminum, titanium and carbon fibre. And they're built with RFID blocking technology to defend your cards against digital theft. Ridge offers a lifetime warranty, so this might be the last wallet you ever need. The same lifetime guarantee applies to their key cases, suitcases and rings. All of them come with free shipping and a 99-day trial. For a limited time, get 10% off at Ridge by using code PIERS, P-I-E-R-S, at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use code PIERS. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them I sent you.
Look, if you're asking whether Israel's public diplomacy, and we call it in Israel hasbara, it's the way our PR or the way we're being portrayed, if it's being run well by Israel. No, it's not. We're doing a really bad job at that, and you're living proof of that because, I'm very much in the know. I have a son who's a soldier. I fought in all wars. I know the way the IDF operates. We don't do much of what is said about us. But the fact is that you think that we do, and therefore we should figure out ways, including what you're suggesting. Look, this is micro-tactical. I don't know if there's a way to. We've got nothing to hide. The GHF right now, the humanitarian fund gave out today 31 million meals just today alone. We're doing everything we can to defeat Hamas, bring home the hostages while minimizing civilian casualties. It looks bad because it does look bad, because it is bad, because war is bad, and war is twice or 10 times as bad when the strategy of Hamas is to wrap themselves in civilians.
But why is it that Mossad appears to have dropped the ball so spectacularly with Gaza in a way it simply didn't do with Hezbollah or now Iran? That's the thing that has mystified me, is that you've got one of the world's obviously most formidable intelligence agencies that's capable of planning for years attacks on terror groups in Lebanon and to dismantle before our very eyes now a lot of the nuclear infrastructure in Iran, but was incapable, it seems, of knowing that Hamas were building an underground tunnel terror network, or was planning one of the biggest atrocities of modern times. And that after that, the only response appears to be that the only way to take out Hamas is to level Gaza to the ground. And if that means killing tens and tens of thousands of civilians in the process, well, that is very sad, but collateral damage. And everyone's just got to accept it. There seems to be a real disconnect between the way Israel and Mossad have gone about dealing with terrorism in Lebanon, terrorism in Iran, but terrorism in Gaza.
Well, there's a fundamental difference in the modus operandi of our enemy. In both cases, we want to destroy our enemy. We don't want to hurt the civilians. The difference is that Iran wants to kill Jews, Hamas wants to kill Jews, but also it covers itself with civilians. And that's something that Iran doesn't do. And that explains the big difference in numbers. The Hamas strategy is to kill as many Jews as possible, but also to wrap itself and embed itself within the civilians. That is not Iran's strategy. That explains the discrepancy.
The thing that's getting you, as you said, very bad PR as a country is that people just find the number of children that are dying in Gaza increasingly unconscionable, but they also felt that the nearly three-month blockade of food and aid was just another massively unnecessary hammer blow onto already impoverished, war-torn women, children, innocent civilians. And that there's been a relentless bombardment at the same time since the ceasefire was broken. And they don't really understand how this ends or what Israel's real game plan is. They're confused by what people like Smotrich say. They take him at his word and think that there's a plan to get rid of all Palestinians. We're now seeing these terrible scenes of thousands of Palestinians storming towards trucks to try and get the food that is being allowed in. And then a number of them are getting shot dead. And the IDF, having denied any of it was to do with them, have now conceded that they have been shooting at people where they believe there's a threat. But the imagery of starving people, and whatever people try and pretend they're not starving. I've had people on who say, oh, they're all fat people in Gaza. You could see thousands of people storming a truck. You only do that when you're incredibly hungry. The fact that they are being shot at is just, to most people outside, absolutely horrific.
Well, let's unpack the question. You said quite a few things. Regarding the 3-month blockade, prior to the 3-month, we pushed in massive amounts of food that was roughly equivalent to 6 months of food. Problem was that Hamas was sort of creaming the crop and taking it and then reselling it at a very low price, at a very high price to the people. And we were enriching Hamas's coffers, which is contrary to our very goals. So when we stopped that, it wasn't forever. We said we got to rethink the way we're doing things. I think we should have done this a year and a half ago, from the very beginning, what we're doing right now, which is to designate zones that are for civilians and provide food, and to screen the terrorists that cannot infiltrate those civilian zones and dry them out with a blockade. Do I think the whole war is being executed well? No, I think it should have been much, much shorter, especially versus Hamas. I think we could have gotten this done long ago. So I'm unhappy about the competence of the way the government is running it. But in terms of morality, we're trying one way, we're trying another. Look, if our goal was to kill as many Palestinians as we wanted, or anything of that sort, there would be 1 million Palestinians dead, not 50,000. It's hard, because every child who's dead is painful. That's just a fact. It's a horrible thing, children that die. We do have to look at the broad picture, which is the ratio of combatant, of terrorists to citizens, and understand that this is one of the most rare cases in history where the whole basis of the Hamas strategy is to wrap themselves with citizens in order for you to ask me these very questions. And there's no magic, Piers. There's no magic formula here. It's tough, thankless work, but what choice do we have? We have to eradicate Hamas. We have to bring home our hostages. All of this can go away tomorrow morning if Hamas lays down its arms and lets the hostages out. So the responsibility is at the doorstep of Hamas. We're not happy about all of this, but it's the best we can do. And by the way, if anyone in the world has a better plan, let me know. Well, I'll bring it to the government.
Does it not give you pause for thought that 2 other former Israeli prime ministers have now accused Israel of committing war crimes?
Well, as I said before, Israel is not exempt from stupidity, and for people, ministers, former prime ministers, from saying stupid things. It's part of our culture of debate, and everyone can say anything they want. I think they're wrong, flat wrong. And I'm very close to the military, to the soldiers, to the commanders. I myself, till fairly recently, served as a commander in one of the units and fought all the wars. Israel's not in the business of genocides, of killing civilians deliberately. It's just not our way of doing things. We never did. Now, on the extremes, can things happen? Yes. And do we investigate them? Yes, we do.
There's lots of speculation about you. You've been doing better in recent polling. Your momentum as potentially the opposition and perhaps successor to Prime Minister Netanyahu has been growing. Would you like to be Prime Minister again? Tax day has passed, but for millions of Americans, that's where the trouble begins. The IRS is now ramping up enforcement for those who missed the April deadline or still owe back taxes. Well, today's sponsor, Tax Network USA, can still help. If your books are a mess, if you're self-employed, or if you're a business owner, Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track quickly. They say the IRS is applying enforcement pressure at levels they've never seen before. But even after the deadline, it's not too late to take control. The consultation is completely free. Acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, and surprise levies before they escalate. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/peers. That's tnusa.com/peers. Let Tax Network USA make the next move, not the IRS.
I've not made that decision yet, but I do think that the Israeli nation deserves better leadership, much better leadership. The nation itself has been amazing, resilient, tough. It's really tough times. I mean, people are dying every night in Israel, and yet 200,000 Israelis abroad are trying to get home, and very few Israelis are trying to get out. It's, I think it's not only patriotism, it's simply deep love for this place, and it's a tough place, but we have no other place. And so I do think that the nation deserves much better leadership, but make no mistake, on Iran and fighting back Iran and bringing home the hostages and defeating Hamas, there's almost, I'd say, a wall-to-wall consensus on the goals. Now, regarding the ways to do it, obviously there's a vibrant debate.
I mean, there is, but there's also a majority view that Prime Minister Netanyahu, according to a poll published in the Times of Israel, cares more about holding power than actually bringing this war to an end or getting the hostages released, and that there are a number of good reasons for him not to want that war to end, not least because he'd be facing corruption charges when it's over and would be held to proper account for allowing October the 7th to happen on his watch. Many people think you should have elections sooner rather than later in Israel, and that if that was to happen, somebody like you might well come through and take over, and that might be a good way to try and get through this and try and bring this war to an end, get the hostages out, and end all this.
I agree.
Naftali Bennett, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, joining me now is the host of the mother of all talk shows and former British MP, George Galloway. George, you were listening there to Naftali Bennett. What was your response to that interview?
Well, you did a good job as his Alistair Campbell to him as Tony Blair. I hope he remembers you if he does get into the Prime Minister's seat. I'm frankly astounded that you did not ask him about the bombing of the Iranian state TV station just a couple of hours ago. The mass murder of tea ladies, technicians, journalists and broadcasters. I can't believe that you didn't know about that. And indeed, Professor
Actually, I don't know about that.
was...
You've just told me that, so that's the answer to your question. I didn't know about it. I've been on air.
Well, you really need to be better briefed.
Well,
you're
okay,
interviewing a guy that you're punting.
You can have your views about that.
This is
in answer to your
important.
question, I didn't know, so that's the answer to your question.
Well, you should have known.
Okay, well, you're a better journalist than me. You're a better broadcaster than me. I didn't know.
Professor Marandi was in that building. I don't know if he's dead, but the story is that he was in that building to do an interview with you, and I very much hope that that is not true. And I very much hope that he is still alive.
He told me that was true. He told me that he'd been told to leave, but had decided to stay and do the interview, in which all he did was call me a liar, a coward, and a genocide enabler.
So you did know about the bombing of the Iranian TV station?
No, there was no bombing going on when I interviewed him, obviously, or I would have stopped the interview.
Piers, there's mass casualties.
Yes, George.
In the Iranian
you asked me
TV
if I knew
station.
it was going on when I interviewed him. I didn't.
Well, it's a disgrace that you did not know.
Well, I didn't, or I would have
because you
stopped.
might have been able to
did.
ask.
If I'd known, I would have stopped the interview, obviously.
Well, this is going to grow and grow as an issue, Piers. You may very well be in difficulty here.
I won't be in any difficulty at all. Why don't we get on with the interview?
One thing you did know is that Israel has scores, if not hundreds, of nuclear weapons. And you did not mention it. Why is Israel allowed illegally to hold scores, if not hundreds, of nuclear weapons in defiance of the law, uninspected by any agency in Dimona? And reports today from Dimona are that they are currently modernizing their nuclear fleet. Don't you think that would have put in a better perspective this issue of nuclear weapons? The reason I know you know it is because the brave Jewish whistleblower Mordechai Vanunu, who blew the whistle on Israel's nuclear weapons, came first to the Daily Mirror and was betrayed by your enemy and mine, Robert Maxwell, to the Mossad, and then spent 22 years in prison in solitary confinement, and turned up in the courtroom with his jaws wired together like Hannibal Lecter, so he couldn't tell the courtroom what he'd told the Daily Mirror. Finally, the story appeared in Andrew Neil's Sunday Times, but only after Maxwell had betrayed him to the Mossad. So this issue of nuclear weapons, according to Tulsi Gabbard, Iran is not seeking to build a nuclear weapon.
Why would you believe them?
February.
Why would you believe them?
Well, I believe Tulsi Gabbard.
Why do you believe Iran?
No, I'm believing Tulsi Gabbard.
Given that the Atomic Agency,
I'll come on to Iran.
Given that the Atomic Agency,
why do you want to dodge Tulsi Gabbard?
Talking. You've talked and talked and talked. Let me get a question in. The Atomic Agency, as you know, brought out a report in the last few days. It made it clear that Iran had lied, obfuscated, denied access, not allowed enough inspections, and that it now got uranium enriched to 60%, which is a massive stage forward from where they were at 3% a few years ago to now 60%. And the move from that to being able to create a nuclear weapon is actually much closer and therefore more potentially imminent as a threat. And I'm just curious why you would trust Iran as far as you could throw it, the regime, not the people, the regime, when they are clearly accelerating their nuclear program, clearly accelerating their enrichment program.
Piers,
why would you not be concerned about that?
Piers, I trust Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump's director of national intelligence.
You do?
Don't you?
Well,
Don't you?
do? I'm surprised you do.
I'm very much hoping she'll be the next president, Piers. But I trust her. Don't you?
I don't know. I've interviewed her once in my life. I don't know whether to trust everything she says or not.
Well, you know that Donald Trump appointed her the director of national intelligence. Why would you doubt her?
Look,
Isn't Trump your friend?
I'm not doubting her or trusting her or untrusting her.
Does he appoint liars?
I'm asking you why you. I'm asking you why you trust the Iranian regime when they say they're not wanting to build a nuclear bomb.
Well, you're actually asking the wrong person for this reason. If I was running Iran, I would long ago have had a nuclear weapon because Israel has scores or hundreds of them. And as you've just heard, is determined to bring about regime change in Iran. So you won't get me to clutch my pearls about Iran having nuclear weapons.
Why wouldn't you want regime change in Iran out of interest, given what a draconian, repressive, despicable regime it is?
I have this old-fashioned view. You once had it also in relation to the country next door, Iraq, that the leadership in any country is the business of the people in that country. But if you've got a nuclear-armed superpower trying to change your regime, frankly, you're an idiot if you don't arm yourself to the maximum that you are capable of.
So you want to see Iran arming itself with nuclear weapons?
Well, Israel's got hundreds.
No, I'm asking you about Iran.
You've just been talking about the slaughter of the innocent.
I'm asking you about Iran.
In Gaza.
Would you, George Galloway, it sounds to me like you, George Galloway, unlike the rest of the world, would like to see Iran arming itself with nuclear weapons, to which I say you've lost your marbles.
Piers, there you go again. Unlike the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Do you really think that you speak for the rest of the world?
Beam's creatine is America's #1, and it's made by a company founded on values like hard work and delivering real results. Creatine is often dismissed as just for bodybuilders, but the truth is that it's one of the most researched, effective, and safest supplements for supporting strength, brain health, and longevity. Quality matters, of course, and Beam Creatine delivers. There's no fillers, no sugar, and nothing synthetic. Just clean, science-backed creatine for strength, focus, and results. We've teamed up to give you up to 30% off their best-selling creatine for a limited time only. Go to shopbeam.com/Piers and use the code Piers at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Piers, Piers. Use the code Piers for up to 30% off. These sales don't happen very often. This is the lowest price you'll find anywhere for a product of this quality. Go to shopbeam.com/Piers and use the promo code Piers for up to 30% off. Well, probably not China or Russia or North Korea. So let's take those four countries out of it, or Pakistan.
Listen,
right? But
Iran
actually, yes, most of the world has a real problem with the concept of Iran being a nuclear power, apart from you, who thinks they should have loads of nukes.
No, it's not just for me. Iran is presently the hero of the vast majority of people in the world.
Oh, rubbish.
And it's
absolute
the fact
rubbish.
That you can't see
what a
that.
load of absolute
Piers,
nonsense.
Take your eyes off the posterior of the tiny part of the world, which is the Western world.
You think that
Africa
currently
is with
most
Iran.
of the world, you think the rest of the world
America is with Iran.
You think the rest of the world
China is with Iran.
Yeah,
Russia is with Iran.
Russia,
All
China,
the Arabs are with Iran.
Russia, China,
Take
any
your
other
nose out of the ass
North Korea
of the tiny number of people that you think are the world. They're not the world. The world is 8 billion people.
Right.
You're speaking for the little clique that leads a tiny fraction of fewer than 1 billion of the people of the world.
So just to be clear,
you cannot see beyond the end of your nose.
As I suggested, then you want to put up as a defence for Iran that they're supported by China, Russia. Did you mention North Korea?
That's a lot of people, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But are they the kind of people, in terms of their own regimes, that we should be taking as good supporters of these benevolent people in Tehran?
You're living under Keir Starmer's regime, for God's sake. You're going to blame the British for Keir Starmer? The French are living under little Macron. When did you get the right to decide that 7/8 of the world's population cannot be considered valid because you, Piers Morgan, don't like their regimes? Listen, there's something else you didn't mention, and you must also have known about that. Unless you switch your mobile off at 10 o'clock at night, you already know that Iran is giving Israel a bloody good hiding every single night.
It's not, though, is it?
You described it all.
It's not, though, is it?
You described it all
It's not, though.
as a wonderful military operation.
As always,
Israel.
let me answer you. As always, the Iranian regime has put out apocalyptic statements about this will be the annihilation of Israel and everything. It's like it did the last time. And you know what happened last time? Nothing. They fired a few rockets,
Piers.
and the dome dealt with them. This time they've got a few. This time they've got a few missiles have got through the dome. But the idea. Hang on, let me finish my question. The idea that the Israeli Air Force have managed to inflict this kind of catastrophic damage on military commanders, nuclear scientists, nuclear sites, and all of this, and have control of the airwaves in Tehran. And the only response so far has been a few missiles that have got past the dome.
Missiles?
You say they've been pounding them. They've not been pounding Israel.
Have you seen Haifa?
They've not been pounding Israel.
You are astounded. This is something else you don't know. You didn't know about Marandi. You didn't know about the TV station.
I knew what Marandi told me.
I
knew what Marandi told me.
Israel.
I knew what Professor Marandi told me.
Just to be clear,
hang on.
You don't know about it.
Just to be clear,
I'll tell you who I believe.
Just to be
You're
clear
asking about belief.
Just to be clear,
I believe the
Just to be
mayor
clear,
of Tel Aviv.
Sorry, if I may finish responding
can I
to you.
quote an Israeli? I believe the mayor of Tel Aviv, a former director of intelligence in the Israeli army, now the elected mayor of Tel Aviv, who says this has got to stop. We cannot win this war. That's the mayor of Tel Aviv. I can believe him.
I see
or I
zero
can believe
evidence.
Piers Morgan.
There is zero evidence that Israel can't win this war as things stand. Zero.
Well, why
Most
are
of
they asking the United
90%
States
of the
to join
damage
in?
is being inflicted by Israel onto
This
Iran.
is pure nonsense, Piers. Why are
Why are
they
you so
begging
deluded,
Donald
George?
Trump?
Why are you so
begging Donald
Why is your
Trump to join in?
pathological hatred of all things Israel made you so deluded?
Is this something else you don't know? Do you know that Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon are right this minute on TV debating how if Trump gives in to Netanyahu's begging him to join in and save the day, that it will be the end of the Trump presidency, that it will split MAGA down the middle? Do you not know that either?
No, why would I know that? I've been on air. How would I know that?
Well, if you're really...
Why do you expect me to know
so
things when I'm literally
unaware,
interviewing
Piers,
people like
because
you?
I made the mistake, Piers, of thinking you were a well-informed man.
I am. But when I'm actually filming my show, it's quite hard to keep up with world events.
Don't you have someone that can pass you a note?
I've got lots of people that do a brilliant job. That's why I have
don't you have
one of the most
someone who
popular
can
shows in
talk
the world.
in your ear?
Yeah, it's why my show's a lot more popular than yours, because I'm better at it than you. So stop the lectures about how good a journalist I am, or how good a broadcaster I am, or how good my team are, because if you were so good, George, you'd have a lot more people following you, a lot more people watching you. But most people think you become a delusional loon, and I think that's sad.
My dad is bigger than your dad. Not
my dad, just the number of people that watch my show massively dwarfs yours.
My dick is bigger than your dick. Are you really down to that, Piers? Well, I've got some evidence that it isn't, but I'll not go there because I'm actually astounded at the sheer ignorance, which I'm being very kind and calling it ignorance. I could easily call it lying. I could easily call it willful ignorance.
Of course you could.
That you didn't know there's tea ladies lying dead in the Iranian TV station.
To be clear,
and you interviewed Bennett and didn't even mention it to him.
To be clear, I'm being told by my team in my ear as we speak that outside of Iran, there has been no independent verification of what you are saying. So
It's
you are
on
believing.
television,
So you
Piers.
are believing the
It's
words
on
of the
television.
Iranian
Open your phone.
regime. And
You
forgive
can
me.
see the
And
video.
forgive me if I will wait for independent corroboration before believing what the Iranian regime says.
You don't believe that
are an
Professor
Iranian
Marandi.
regime stooge
You don't believe
who believes
that
anything
Professor
they say.
Marandi, your frequent guest, that gentleman,
Yeah.
was bombed
He's not a
today.
gentleman.
He's not
a
a
gentleman.
Oh. I think most of the people who've ever watched him think he's a gentleman.
No, I don't think he's a gentleman.
lying.
I think he's a very disingenuous man who spews
They
a lot of
don't
bullshit.
think he's
actually.
lying, Piers. They don't think he's lying.
Oh, they do,
when
George. They do. They do.
They think he's lying when he says he was bombed in the Iranian TV station
He
today.
wasn't bombed. He was on
There's
air talking to
footage.
me. What are you talking about?
There's footage
How was he bombed
on
and
every
talking to me?
media platform.
He was talking to me.
Of the TV station
How on
burning.
earth was he being bombed
Anyway,
as he
listen,
talked to
Piers.
me? Complete
Piers.
nonsense, man.
Piers,
You're talking
as
nonsense.
your dick is so much bigger than my dick, as your dad is so much bigger than my dad, and as your television program is so much bigger and better than mine,
Yeah.
I'll say goodnight to you because I have rather more wholesome people.
Oh, you're running
to
away.
Talk to.
Okay.
No, I'm not running away,
running
but
away.
I won't be coming back.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I made the mistake of thinking that you were an honest man.
Yeah.
In fact, you're a slippery,
Well, it's okay, because I never made that mistake with you.
You're
So don't worry about it. I never made that mistake with you, George. I always thought you were thoroughly disingenuous and you prop up these evil regimes for reasons that completely baffle me. And you think you're the right guy. You think you're the honest guy. And actually, you know what? You're the kind of guy that one minute you call me a rat, the next minute I'm your hero and you're praising me. It's pathetic.
Is that why you ask me onto your show every single week, Piers?
Sorry?
Every single week. I've got the texts. Every single week you ask me onto your show because I'm all these things you just accused me of.
No, I don't mind having you on to challenge you. No problem.
Every week?
No
you
problem.
ask me every week?
You came on, I think you apparently
you
last
ask me
we last
every
asked
week.
you on
I've
6 weeks ago. Why are you lying? We haven't asked you on for 6 weeks.
You asked
we haven't
me
asked
to
you
come
on for 6
on
weeks.
Every single
3rd of May we asked you last time. 3rd of May. You're lying.
Your dick may be bigger
You're
than
lying,
mine.
George.
Your
3rd
dick
of May,
may be bigger than mine.
3rd of May.
Your show may be bigger
7
than
weeks
mine.
ago.
But I'll tell you what, Piers, you're a busted flush.
You know what, George? We're about to pass 4 million subscribers on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and you're walking off because you can't handle the heat. Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.